Recently, I've been thinking a lot about Bleach, like where the heck is Cour 4, but more so how I got interested in Bleach to begin with. Because now more than ever, I feel like people are starting to get into Bleach in anticipation for Cour 4, but it might seem a little bit daunting because let's face it, Bleach has a lot of episodes. And I struggled with this, of course, it all seems so overwhelming. I remember around the time the 1,000-Year Blood War was announced, some of my friends were telling me, you gotta get into Bleach. And I was like, fine, I'll watch it, I'll give it a try. But they said, no, you need to actually give it a chance. So how many episodes do you think a chance is? If you said 309 episodes, you'd be correct. That's what they told me. They said for me to give Bleach a chance, I had to make it to the end of the Cour saga, which is about 309 episodes into the series. And obviously, the title of the video is not 309 episodes. Because in my opinion, and this goes out to everybody who's thinking about watching Bleach, if you really want to give Bleach a chance, you only need to watch 63 episodes of Bleach. If you're a fan of Bleach, then you could probably already tell 63 episodes deep, that's the last episode of the Soul Society arc. And at 63 episodes, I feel like that's just short enough to the point where it doesn't feel overwhelming, but it's long enough to the point where you get to one of the best arcs in all of anime. In my opinion, episode 63 is 100% the sweet spot. And I know that typically people would advise you, hey, you gotta watch the first arc. For Bleach, I don't think the first arc is good enough. I think it's a phenomenal arc, and I think it's kind of underrated, but for a first-time watcher, if you want to kind of scout out what Bleach is like, first arc isn't enough. It's only 20 episodes long, but it more so sets up what happens in the Soul Society arc. That's why you need to make it to episode 63, and I wouldn't advise that you go further, because if you go further than episode 63, now you're watching the Bound arc. But I'm gonna assume that you're not watching filler. I would implore you to not watch filler. But the next canon arc after episode 63 is the beginning of the Cour saga, and that's when the Bleach anime starts to get into some pacing issues, so I wouldn't recommend going further than that if you just want a sample. And I want to clarify, I'm not saying it takes 63 episodes for Bleach to get good. I think Bleach is good from episode 1. What I mean by you only need 63 episodes is that if you get to episode 63 and you still haven't found a reason to like Bleach, then maybe it's okay if you drop it. Maybe Bleach isn't for you. That's fine. Not every anime is for everybody. Because by the time that you got into episode 63, you've already seen some of the best that Bleach has to offer. If you don't like the Soul Society arc, then I don't think the arcs that follow are gonna do much convincing. 1,000-Year Blood War might change your mind. You might think the 1,000-Year Blood War is peak. I think that if you watch 1,000-Year Blood War without watching OG Bleach, you're a little bit of a lunatic. But to each their own. And I'm not saying that the Fullbringer arc or the Cour saga is bad either, but there's more reason for a first-time watcher, and I'm making this video with first-time watchers in mind, to be turned off by those arcs. And that's not to mention that those arcs are even further into the series, so it's gonna be an even bigger task to ask a first-time watcher to get that far to begin with. And I'm aware that most people that want to start watching Bleach now is because they want to get to 1,000-Year Blood War. You don't even need to make it to 1,000-Year Blood War. You don't need to make it to Cour 4 for Bleach to get peak. You only need to watch 63 episodes, and I know 1,000-Year Blood War has the visually pleasing art style. It looks really good. It's pretty much eye candy, honestly. But if you don't mind the dated animation, or if you're somebody like me that appreciates the old school anime art style, then 63 episodes is all you need to give Bleach a fair shot. That is the litmus test to see if you will like Bleach heading forward or not. At that point, you've had some of the best fights in the series. You've met some of the greatest characters in the series. You've already seen plenty of characters develop, grow stronger, etc. You've already gotten a taste for one of the greatest power systems in anime. You see the original 13 captains, and maybe, this is subjective, seen the greatest moment in Bleach, point blank period. If you're somebody that's on the fence about watching Bleach and you make it to the end of episode 63, you come back to me and you say, I didn't like it, I dropped it, then fine, it's valid. You know, if you drop Bleach after that, I don't know if there's much convincing that can happen. And that's why I think the end of the Soul Society arc is the perfect benchmark for new Bleach fans, because whether you think the Soul Society arc is the best arc in Bleach or not, I feel like the vast majority of Bleach fans, and feel free to let me know if this is the case for you, or feel free to let me know if I'm wrong, the Soul Society arc is when they realized, yup, I love it. I'm in. I'm hooked. Whether you think the Arrancar saga is better, whether you think Fullbringer arc is better, or you think 1000 Year Blood War is better, most of us got hooked during the Soul Society arc. It's the perfect bang for your buck because 63 episodes, maybe by new gen standards it's a lot, but new gen anime, 12 episodes, it's over. You're like, how the heck did that happen? But by old gen anime standards, 63 episodes long is fairly reasonable. And there are more check marks that I would say a new gen fan can reach if they want to. Again, episode 63 is the benchmark for me, but I think if you make it past that, you want to be an overachiever. Maybe you want to dip your toes in the Arrancar saga. You don't have to watch the entire saga. You can just watch up until the Grimmjow fight maybe. But if you watch up until the Grimmjow fight, might as well make it to the Okiura fight. And at that point, why not just complete the entire saga? And then if you complete the saga, why not watch Fullbringer? I mean, it's right there. Complete OG while you're at it. And then why don't you just start 1000 Year Blood War and finish Bleach and realize its peak? No, I'm kidding. Halfway. Because I would love for you to do that. But in my opinion, I feel like it is imperative that when you're starting a new series, you at least get to a point where you feel semi-confident in what the direction of the story is going to be like. And that doesn't mean that you have to have all the answers. That doesn't mean that you have to watch an anime in full. I 100% understand dropping an anime that you're not into. Come on, we don't do this for sport, guys. And by episode 63, I feel like, yeah, if you're a first-time watcher, you probably have a fairly adequate assumption as to what's going to go on later on in the story. And especially for an anime like Bleach that has a lot of foreshadowing in it, and a lot of foreshadowing was done within those first 63 episodes. If you're apt enough to catch on to that foreshadowing, and honestly, I don't expect anybody, especially a first-time watcher that is unspoiled, to catch a lot of the foreshadowing that goes on, because it's a lot. But it's there. I promise it's there. And if you catch it, you're probably going to be able to make some pretty accurate inferences as to what Bleach is going to be like. And if at that point you say, I don't want to watch this anime anymore, I can't blame you. As much as I love Bleach, I can't say that you didn't try. I can't say that you didn't give it a shot, which is honestly more than I can ask of anybody. Because truth be told, a large part of me is making this video because I want first-time watchers to get into Bleach. I got into Bleach recently, about a year ago. Maybe that's not so recent, but it changed my life. Bleach changed my life, and I would like for people who are on the fence about Bleach to at least dabble in it. Because the funny thing about Bleach is that Bleach is peak when there's not a hating ass, never seen the anime, Boruto loving. I'm joking. Bleach is amazing, and it's especially amazing when there's not somebody in your ear telling you it's bad or that it doesn't deserve to be in the big three. Bleach, for some reason, gets slandered a lot on the internet. And the worst part is that on the internet, you can slander something and you can just not even be privy to what it's about. You can call an anime trash whole time the person you're arguing with hasn't seen not even a fraction of a percentile of the first episode. But with Cour 4 on the horizon, I really hope that a lot more people start giving Bleach a chance, because it really is such a phenomenal anime. And I'm aware that a lot of y'all watching this video have already seen Bleach, and y'all are aware of the beauty that is Bleach. And it doesn't take long to finally get to that moment of epiphany where you're like, wow, Bleach really is good. For some of y'all, I know y'all are gonna have that moment earlier than others, episode 5, 10, 15 maybe. For others, it's gonna take longer, maybe 40 episodes, 50, but I implore all of you, please get to that 63. I promise, if you go into Bleach with a clear mind, you don't go into it with the assumption that you're gonna dislike it before you even watch it. If you get to episode 63, I'm sure that a lot of y'all will fall in love with Bleach. And if you don't, so be it. You can come back here and call me an idiot. But anyways, that's been my piece. That's been my call to action. I'm not even gonna ask y'all to subscribe. I've asked way too much of y'all. Get to 63 episodes of Bleach, and then I'm gonna ask y'all to subscribe. No, watch Bleach. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody. Peace.